Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the MrWarrenHayes Show. Hello, hi, how are you doing? I'm MrWarrenHayes. It's very nice to be back. This is the first MrWarrenHayes Show proper that I've done since I believe what's it? It must have been either I don't even remember. It was probably like early January or late December, depending on how things went. Because look, not to reiterate the whole story, because I feel like I've spoken about it multiple times, but just in case you've been out of the loop, and especially for people listening on your podcast feeds, you're probably like, oh shit, he's back. I wonder what happened to him. You know, I've been keeping people abreast on YouTube and on social media. Well, you know, the YouTube community tab in Blue Sky, as well as the MrWarrenHayes Show Discord. The link is in the description if you want to come and hang out. But basically, I had a health issue at the beginning of January. I had what they call an aortic dissection, which apparently is really fucking serious, and that could have been the end. Right then and there. But it hasn't been the end, much to many people's chagrins. And I'm still around, but I've been convalescing since, and it's been a long road. I had basically it's open heart surgery. They split you open, and you know they do the things. So it's been a long road to recovery. I see specialists and I do tests almost on a weekly basis, and it's my energy levels fluctuate quite a bit still. And I'm supposed to take it easy. They keep they keep telling me, they being the specialists, the people who are looking after me, they keep saying the same thing. You got to take it easy. You got to rest. You sit down. You do your own thing. You don't go nuts. You relax. You have other people do things for you, and don't lift. I can't even lift anything that weighs more than 10 pounds. That's the kind of situation that I'm in. And it's like, and oh yes, you can, and yes, sir, you have to go outside, let's say, and take walks, to keep yourself active, but not too many walks and not too long. You got to pace yourself. It's a very unique situation I'm in. So again, I'm not relitigating the whole thing. If you want to check it out, if you want to hear me talk about it at length, I did a live stream a few weeks ago on YouTube to just give the update, tell everyone what I'm up to and where I'm at right now. And I'm slowly getting back into the swing of things. On YouTube, I've been, not regularly, but periodically, I've been periodically uploading short, little opinion pieces on videos on shit that's happening, right? So that's the kind of stuff that's been that I've been doing there, but not much on the official podcast side. Actually, nothing at all. And so nothing really on the audio side of things, if you're used to listening to me on your favorite podcast application. But here I am. I decided a couple of days ago that I was gonna see how, again, it's always like a bit of a touch and go thing, how my energy levels were and so on and so forth. And then I was like, well, let me see how things go. And maybe Tuesday, which is when I'm recording, Tuesday, April 2. Maybe Tuesday I'll hop on and record something. Like I don't feel yet, like I don't feel confident in doing a live stream, like in jumping into a live stream and being like, all right, here we are, let's go. So I don't feel super confident with that, doing that just yet. But I was like, I'll record something. Plus, here I was, and was like, it'll be a fun recording. There'll be, it's WrestleMania. There's a lot of stuff going on. I'll be able to take my time, preview WrestleMania, preview other shows around happening, this upcoming weekend as well that have my interest. I was like, oh, why don't I even talk about the CMLL show from last Friday where we had the BCC invading CMLL in Arena, Mexico. I said, why don't I do all of, that'll be fun. But no, I can't just sit down and do that because in the meantime, other stuff has happened. I'm like, okay, I've got a proper, I have a proper podcast now. I have more than enough topics set up to just run me through a whole whatever time this is going to take, So much for my good intentions of just sitting down and going, we're going to review some shows, guys, gals, and Bonnie Pals. It's going to be great. It's going to be nice and smooth sailing. But, in practice, turns out, and not in practice, like it turns out that I'm gonna be talking about a whole bunch of stuff. Like there's things happening that I can't just skip over. It would do myself a disservice. I feel like I wouldn't be doing right by what I want to do here in the first place. So I can't just sit here and say, CM Punk, the releases, the AEW releases. We're not going to talk about that. Let's just go to WrestleMania. I can't do that. My conscience is preventing me from doing that. I thought about it and legitimately I got pangs of guilt about even considering that thought. This is where we're at right now. This is what we're going to be doing here. We got a bunch of stuff. First of all, thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for allowing me to enter your world environment. It means a lot to me. It means a whole lot. One of the things that I was concerned about was, will there still be people around after like 2-3 months of me doing jack shit? And it turns out, yes, there are people who will still be around, and I that's very humbling. And thank you very much. If you wouldn't mind leaving a like, if you're watching this on YouTube right now, youtube.com/MrWarrenHayes, or a 5-star review on Apple Podcast, 5-star rating on Spotify. If you wouldn't mind, that would all be just like the most tremendous thing ever, and I would be highly appreciative of it. Thank you. Thank you for that. And like I mentioned, if you want to come hang out in the Mr. Warren Hayes Show Discord, the link is in the description. Come and hang out, lurk a bit, see how things go, and then jump in and enjoy the show. Why? That's more like a train. It has nothing to do with shows. But anyway, I'd love to have you. That would be tremendous. But again, thank you for being here. We're going to be covering a lot of stuff here. Like I said, I did want to sit down and preview stuff coming up, right? We've got WrestleMania XL happening this weekend that I wanted to talk about. NXT Stand and Deliver as well, which is a show we're going to be previewing tonight. Ring of Honor Supercard of Honor 2024. Also happening this Friday. Sakura Genesis over in New Japan is happening this weekend. Completely unrelated to the WrestleMania weekend festivities. Completely unrelated, but still happening this weekend. So we're going to, it is the big Tetsuya Naito Yoda Tsuji match show. That has my interest. So we're going to be talking about that. On top of that, we're going to be talking about CM Punk's comments on the MMA Hour with Ariel Helwani. I've said it multiple times. We will always talk about CM Punk when CM Punk gets newsworthy. Always. We always shall. So this is where we're at, and we're going to do that today. going through some of his comments and some of my thoughts as well, mostly, essentially. So you're going to be doing that. We're going to touch on the Janel Grant love letters that she sent to Vince McMahon, which were leaked yesterday to the New York Post. We're going to be talking about that. But first, I think we're going to kick things off today by talking about the AEW releases on April 1st, ergo yesterday, last evening actually. Fightful started reporting releases from All Elite Wrestling, starting things off with Stu Grayson, who was released. Let me rattle off the list here of people that were released, and this was the term that was used as well by Sean Ross Sapp. The term was released as opposed to just let go or so on. We're talking about releases here. Stu Grayson, Dasha, Anthony Henry, the Tate twins, also known as the Boys, over in Ring of Honor, Slim J, Gravity, Jose the Assistant, Parker Boudreaux, Jorah Joel, and that's it. There you go. I don't know why I wanted to add more people to that. That's fine. That's more than enough people. Here's what's interesting to me here. Well, like a couple of notes, I guess. I think one of the most there's a couple of surprising ones. For me, there's three really surprising ones that happened on the list, that popped up on the list. I think Stu Grayson, to a degree, is very surprising. Since Stu had his contract expired 2022, he was not picked up again, and he re-signed with AEW in 2023, right? Like in March 2023, and he was involved in that great Fight Without Honor match at Death Before Dishonor last year as well. Working with the Righteous, right? He was on this. He was basically a member of the Righteous against his old Dark Order buddies, and I really liked that. And it turns out he was released. Now there's rumors going around as to why he was released or not. I can't necessarily speak on that, but to the validity or which version is correct. But the story going around is that Stu was asked to come in to wrestle at the Ottawa show that AEW did just recently, and he refused. He said he turned it down, said no, which is odd. For if only that Ottawa's basically his hometown. It's not exactly, but it's basically his hometown. So a bit of a strange situation here. I mean, he hadn't really been used on television since working a dark match with Robert Anthony, like late last year or something like that. Like after after Death Before Dishonor, he did an AEW dark match while it was still a YouTube thing, and that was it. Like after that, he just hadn't been used. Good worker. Shame to see him go. I've always liked Stu, again, this is another situation where we'll see what happens with him moving forward. But it's very strange. He gets brought back into the company in March last year, and has a little bit of work, does mostly Ring of Honor work, but he's working. And then I don't know. I don't know. And I know a lot of people are complaining, not complaining, but are reacting very vehemently to this, saying, he's such a great worker. But on a roster with great workers, how did Stu stand out? Well, he was never given a chance. Well, was he never really given? I don't know. Look, I don't want to get into that conversation right now, because I do want to try and keep this moving. But yeah, I mean, it's a little surprising, a little bit of a shockaroo here. So Stu Grayson on his way out. Then we had Dasha Kure. I think that's correct. Kure. I'm not quite sure how to pronounce her last name. Ring announcer, Spanish commentary table member as well. She signed with the company in 2019. So, you know, she's a day one TV personality, right? If she's been along for that that long. She even I think a lot of us forgot about this, but she was even a competitor in the women's tag team tournament, you know, for the medals. I don't know if you remember that. She was in a tag team back in 2020. And again, this is kind of strange because I think she fit the bill perfectly. She's a pro. She's always been solid. I don't know what the issue is here specifically. She even worked Collision this past Saturday. It's all kind of strange. Yeah, you know, couldn't tell you why she's no longer around, but it's certainly curious. A bit of a surprise on that one because I don't think anyone disliked. Like when I say anyone, I mean fans. I mean, I don't know of anyone who outright disliked Dasha. She very charismatic, very good at her job. I don't know. Strange. And then Anthony Henry is another one that kind of surprised me. He had been with the company since September, or at least he wrestled for the first time in the company in September 2021. Teaming with JD Drake, was the Workhorseman as well, and regularly featured on Ring of Honor programming. What makes this weird? Look, Anthony Henry. Here's the thing: 39 years old, and you don't think about this necessarily when you look at the guy, but he's pushing 40. Very good pro wrestler, but again, kind of thing that the kind of thing that you can ask yourself on the same level as Stu Grayson, on a roster filled with great wrestlers, where does Anthony Henry fit in? And I think the natural answer to this, maybe as opposed to Stu, where you kind of felt that Stu and Evil Uno didn't necessarily want to do the tag team stuff anymore, that Stu maybe wanted to have a singles run. That's why when he came back, his first match, when he came back in March, his first match out the gate on Dynamite was against Jon Moxley. So maybe he wanted to cut his teeth on a singles run. Whereas Anthony Henry, I think you felt anyway that he was completely comfortable working with Drake. And the Workhorsemen were a thing and are still a great tag team that were completely underused in AEW. If you watch the indies, you see the work, you know what these guys are. You watch DPW or whatever. The Workhorsemen are tremendous. They're a great tag team, and there was rumors that they were supposed to be in the AEW tag team tournament, but Anthony Henry got his jaw broken on an indie show. So they were taken out. Is this a consequence of? I couldn't tell you. But one thing that I will point out is how shitty it is that he's being released while injured. And I think that's awful. Like, at the very least, like, I would only hope that they're paying for his treatment, whatever the hell. But I think it's a terribly shitty thing to do. You can argue with me that, he injured himself working in indie, so it's on him, it's not on AEW. But AEW still gives their stamp of approval for this stuff. They don't let their talents go off and do things elsewhere unless AEW says, yes, we approve this. So they were okay with it. They gave Henry his blessing to do this, and they do this with a lot of the a lot of the lower card guys who go off and take dates on the indies as well, because just if only because AEW doesn't have much on TV for them, so well, go off and do that. And I think that's fine. I think that's really fine. I think, but the thing that is not fine is how shitty it is that Anthony Henry got Anthony Henry got cut while injured. That's not good. It's actually very shitty, and it's a bad thing to do. And it's the kind of thing that Vince McMahon would do. That this is the kind of thing we'd shit on WWE when they do that to wrestlers, and it's the same thing here. It's a shitty fucking thing to do. You shouldn't do that. I think it's awful. And you know what? It's like, I like Anthony Henry. I really do. And he's a great worker. He was thinking of quitting wrestling when he was fired, but when Asher Hale was fired from WWE, he was thinking about quitting wrestling, and AEW was giving him the call up, and was like, okay. And he felt good about that. And he's been public with this. This is such a shitty, shitty situation. I hate this. I don't have as many extensive takes on the others who were released. The Tate twins. Well, outside of outside of the Tate twins being a part of Dalton Castle's presentation, right? It's what it is. It's weird that they're in the midst of this big angle in Ring of Honor, right? With John Morrison and Dalton Castle fighting over. I don't know. This is what I'm understanding. This is what I understand. I don't really watch Ring of Honor, so I don't know about all of this. So it is what it is. I guess it kind of sucks, but at the same time, you're like, okay, well, cost cutting measures. Here we go. Slim J, who was brought in with the Trust Busters. He was a part of the Trust Busters, right? Remember that? Yeah, I mean, this guy was a perfect enhancement talent, but they just hadn't been using him, so that's fine. Gravity, the luchador, I didn't even know he was signed. I thought he was just popping in once in a while. These releases are a little weird to me because there's a few of them. I didn't even know they were signed. So are these just guys on per appearance dates where it's just like, no, we're done giving you dates, and I don't know exactly what it is, but it is a little strange. And Gravity is what it is. Look, I thought he was too young. I thought it was too rough. With a lot of hires when it comes to Mexican pro wrestlers, luchadors. AEW was already well endowed with top tier luchadors. There wasn't really a spot for Gravity, I don't think. I just don't see exactly what he brought that was really special to the table. But hey, it is what it is. He'll go figure stuff out in Mexico. From what I understand, his from what I understand, he was his signing to AEW sort of went a little bit to his head, I guess, and he decided to he stopped taking dates in Mexico, and I don't know if he burned any bridges, but it did create some controversy, and people were telling him, well, you have to keep working, to take some dates, and he stopped. So yeah, I think this might come around to bite him in the ass a little bit. Jose the assistant is one that is, I guess that you could say is surprising. Then again, I know a lot of people like Jose, but I also think that they like him as a meme more than it. Like, what has Jose really done that's been exciting and crucial and memorable in AEW? I like, outside from that one time he ran to the ring with his shirt off and people went, well, holy shit, he's jacked. Like, outside of that one moment, you know what? I think he's a meme guy, and that's all right. Whatever happens moving forward happens, but look, it's okay. I don't think we're going to be sitting around asking ourselves, telling ourselves in a year from now, boy, do I miss Jose the assistant. If anything, y'all got to keep an eye on Roosh now moving forward, right? Because I think it was Rob Viper on Twitter who was pointing out that, look, Jose is gone, and Dralistico is working WrestleMania weekend, and he's working a show opposite Ring of Honor. Now, I'm not saying he's fired, but I'm saying there's stuff going on here, and just keep an eye on Roosh. There might be, like, he was out there a few months ago, tweeting about how the LFI is ready to take on the BCC, like, sort of creating feuds on Twitter and stuff like that. And I don't know. Look, Roosh is Roosh. Roosh is Roosh is Roosh. And I know I felt like I've been practically on an island with a lot of the MrWarrenHayes show community, where people are really excited about Roosh and love him and think he's great and so on and so forth. And I'm like, keep him at arm's length. Just this guy he doesn't change his spots. It's a leopard. He's a leopard, even though he tries to be a bull. He's a leopard, and he doesn't change his spots. If things don't go his way, I've been telling you guys this ever since he signed to AEW. Everyone loves him now. Wait till he starts getting disgruntled. You thought Andrade was bad? Anyway. Parker Boudreaux, look, they kicked the tires on him. They give him a shot. What kind of future does this kid have in the business? Look, WWE doesn't want him. NXT specifically. AEW doesn't want him. Okay, so, I mean, he could go off to AAA, which is, where he is right now in one of his homes, and he might become the new Brock Lesnar, like everyone was saying he'd be. But also maybe not. And I think all signs point to him maybe not. And it's not as if they didn't try. They did the thing with the Trust Busters, the Mogul Affiliates thing with the Swerve and Trench. Last wrestled for the company in March of 2023. And then he popped up in AAA just a couple of weeks ago. Conan will take care of him. I guess the one thing of note is that in the same day, on April 1st, on that same day, Boudreaux had tweeted out that, yes, I'm still with AEW. AEW is just one of my homes like AAA. And the next thing you know, in the same day, he gets canned. The tweet has disappeared as well, by the way. And Joel as well is gone, and he hasn't wrestled since June. I've got nothing for you. So listen, there's not much to say other than about the releases themselves individually. Yeah, it stinks. No one should lose a job. But I also think that there's a duality here, because you're going to have individuals who are going to be very much, these are human beings who just lost a job. Please be nice and kind. Sure. Okay. Yes, absolutely. But at the same time, these people know what they're signing up to. Then they know, at least they should know. They should know that the wrestling business is a difficult business, and this is the kind of thing that happens. We go through this all the time, where every time where there's a series of releases, it's like, oh, don't come in here saying being shitty. No, it is shitty. That, don't get me wrong, I'm not going to sit here and applaud getting rid of any of these folks unless there's like really just cause, right? It's, when AEW finally got rid of CM Punk, I think there was a rousing cheer. And I think that's okay. I think that was a good thing to do, and it was the best situation here was CM Punk to lose his job with AEW. Now, unless there's someone here in the list where that's an absolute scumbag, or something trashy happened or whatever. No, I'm not going to sit here and go. But when it comes to, we're not talking about. If we try to compartmentalize this, these releases are fine. These are people that had not, outside of Dasha. Let's talk about the pro wrestlers, right? Because Dasha is very curious. All people that were barely being used or not used at all, that were just hanging around. Where's the value? We don't know what their contract, their specifications were. We don't know how much money they were making. Were they making enough money to justify being employed? We don't know. And there's no one here that is a game changer for AEW. We're not talking about AEW firing Jon Moxley, firing Adam Page, firing, Samoa Joe, firing Kenny Omega, where you're like, what the fuck is happening here? With legitimate top-level game-changing events. This is fine. Cody leaving AEW was a huge deal. I'm sorry to say, Jose the assistant leaving AEW is all right. Okay, we're okay here. So again, I'm not going to laugh these people out of the building because they lost their jobs. I'm not going to be mean to them. I'm not going to say they suck. What I'm saying is, it's all right. It's also all right to say, well, these people lost their jobs. Let's move on. And we don't have to eulogize them. We don't have to, because they weren't even being used in the company. We can have discussions as to whether or not they were used well. Absolutely, sure, that's fine. But I don't see a huge loss here. I don't see any huge losses. I don't see anyone where I'm like, man, they just dropped the ball here. Let's say they had 1 year ago, had AEW fired, let's say, Swerve Strickland, and we're like, that was a mistake. That would have been I said it when WWE fired Swerve Strickland. When WWE fired him, I was like, that's a huge mistake. Not everyone can be a huge mistake. And so I got off track here because I do see a lot of that, and no, I'm not going to make fun of these people. I'm not going to laugh, and I'm not going to say, oh, fucking good riddance, but absolutely not. But I'm also not going to sit here and bemoan the loss of a bunch of lower mid-carders that weren't being used. I think that's I can feel bad for them to lose their jobs, but from an observing standpoint, I'm like, okay. Now, the thing that I think happens here is what's curious, and right now we there's no clarity that exists in regards to, as I'm recording this at the very least, there's no clarity as to how this happened, but Tony Khan has said in the past that he will never release, I don't know if he said never, but he wouldn't want to release wrestlers. He'd let their contracts expire and then not renew, right? Which had been a bargaining chip, which was a big time bargaining chip in regards to contract negotiations with WWE. And we've seen this happen multiple times since, Joey Janela, Marco Stunt, all these guys were told, we're not going to renew your contract, but we're going to let it run out. And that, again, was I think that was a substantial plus that AEW had in regards to their negotiation tactics. In regards to WWE, where WWE was like, well, we'll fire you whenever we want. It's like, it doesn't matter. If we don't need you, we don't need you, kind of thing. So that's a thing. Basically, is what I'm saying. So that's a thing that just happened that is very strange and very curious and sort of is a departure, not as sort of, it is absolutely a departure from how Tony Khan handled terminating or getting rid of pro wrestlers. It's a big change. Now, again, there's no confirmation on how this worked. There is speculation going around that the new COO, Kosha Irby, a former WWE guy, is the hatchet man here. And came in and did the cuts and came in, did the cuts and said sayonara kind of thing. Which creates a situation where Tony can be, where Tony, look, what exactly is it? Is it left brain? Is it the left hand not talking to the right hand? That seems improbable. I don't believe that. I sincerely think that Tony Khan was involved was aware of this happening, right? I think he's aware that a lot of people have some questions as to whether or not, well, did you do this or not? I think this, I think this is a bit of an important mark as to how AEW might proceed moving forward. I joked, in the Discord last evening that, there you go, Tony Khan has his Johnny Ace. Tony liked me, Vince loved me. Vince loved my ideas, but Johnny Ace fired me. So we got the same. Well, Tony loves me, but Kosha Irby told me to hit the bricks. Is this the situation that we have? That we have a guy coming in, looking at the books, right? He's a CEO, chief operating officer. He's not a comptroller. He's not an accountant. but he comes in and he's like, okay, well, why are we keeping these guys if we're not going to use them, kind of thing. And Tony's like, oh, okay. I mean, this is why you have executives in charge of different departments, so that the one guy in charge who might have a very broad picture, but maybe not be into the details, into the weeds of everything, they can come up to him and say, and so on, oh, this is not working. So look, again, this is speculation in regards to Kosha Irby. We don't know. But regardless of who actually made the calls, right? It's obvious, it's evident that AEW is no longer operating the same way it did in the past. It's not going to be the same thing moving forward. Absolutely not. In regards to releases. So all very curious, because again, the language that was used by Fightful was released. we'll see if we can get more details. But as it stands, this is how it's coming across. And I've seen people say, "Oh, well, obviously, if they're releasing people on the cusp of having this huge TV deal that Tony keeps talking about, it clearly means that it's not as big a deal as they thought." Look, I'm sorry to say, I don't think the deal, regardless, right? Let's put it this way. Let me phrase that. Let's say the TV deal is not as big as expected. I don't think, cutting Gravity's salary was the game changer here, that they absolutely had that was the one that would have freed up more costs, more operating revenue to make do, for whatever money they're not getting on the deal, right? I don't think Parker Boudreaux's or Jorah Joel's salaries were that big. I don't think it's a cause and effect. I don't think there's a one-to-one here. I think dopes are being dopes, and and God bless Anthony Henry, but same thing. I don't think he was the guy who was making none of the. I get outside of Dasha, who I feel is the outlier here. The Dasha seems weird, but I don't think Stu or Anthony Henry or Slim J were tremendous. We're burning through the salary budget. I don't think these were the guys who were tipping the scales. You know what I mean? It's so strange to me. I don't think this is an indication at all. And if anything, look, if I know corporations, making a shitload of money is usually a bad sign. That usually leads to layoffs. Have you not been following any economic news for the past 2 years? Companies come in and they have they make their quarterly announcements, and they're like, "Hey," not just in wrestling, I'm talking about, "Hey, we made so much more profit, tremendous growth, so on and so forth." And a couple of weeks later, they lay off 2% of their staff. They lay off 500 people. Whatever the fuck. Right? Jesus Christ. And WWE did that for years. We're making money. We'll release 20 people. However you want to perceive this, if you want to stick to your guns and say, they're releasing people because they're not going to they're releasing people because the TV deal is not big enough. Which, if you want to take the side of the talent not being big time salaried talents, or if you want to take the side of corporations will release people even if they're making money, you're wrong. There's no correlation here. I don't think it makes sense. I don't think getting rid of these 10 people with their minuscule salaries is that big a deal. I don't think it's something they need to do to make a dent. And I really don't. I'm just baffled. So there you go. So we had a round of whatchamacallit of releases there from AEW. It felt like it was wrapped up for now, but listen, this is an entirely new reality now when it comes to AEW. We'll see if this is something that happens again in the future. Yesterday on April 1st, and again, this is not an April Fool's, the New York Post published an article where they had obtained a letter from Janel Grant that Janel Grant had written to Vince McMahon that dated back to December 2021. This letter was in fact was a love letter that Grant sent to McMahon, specifically on Christmas Eve 2021, where she basically professed her love for Vince and and their relationship as well. This came a bit out of left field, and not a lot of people were expecting this. And the letter is available on the New York Post article. You can go check that out. You can go read it yourself. It's about like 4 or 5 pages. I don't quite remember. I read through it. But so a lot of people saw this and like, aha! It said, aha! But then again, Janel's lawyers are saying that she was coerced into writing these letters, implying that there was more than one. There were even texts released showing that Grant was basically took a picture of a thumb injury that she had, and this text was sent to Vince, right? Basically to show him, look, my thumb is fucked up, and she had a huge bandage. I don't know exactly what happened, but telling Vince, yeah, I'm injured, and I'm sorry it's taking so long to write the letter. I'm having a hard time considering that I'm hurt. And Vince goes, that's all right, baby. It's like, whatever that means, which I think is weird. If I'm writing a love letter to my significant other, I'm not giving them a heads up. I want this to be a surprise, right? It's like something that I just toss and it's like, hey, here you go. Here you go, darling. And I especially don't give them updates. It's like, I just wanted, that, because that's what she was saying. It's like, I'm sorry it's taking so long, but I'm hurt. And Grant's lawyers also said that she even used existing articles or publications, or at least what did they say? They called it pop culture. There you go. Elements of pop culture to pad out the letter, saying that they used a GQ interview between Megan Fox and Machine Gun Kelly, and quotes from the bishop's wife, so that she could pad out the letter. So, now, if this is supposed to be, look, this was leaked for a reason. Let's backtrack a second here. Let's try and be media savvy about this. This was leaked for a reason. Like, this letter just didn't suddenly, wasn't sent out out of the goodness of someone's heart. Wasn't sent by Vince McMahon's lawyers or whatever. Just by, we can. This was leaked for a reason. It was leaked in an attempt to sway people into thinking that, swaying people more favorably towards Vince. Right? Because then, it's like, she has 2 different types of behavior, so on and so forth. But ultimately, you read the letter and, it does feel like, it feels like a report to a degree, and the fact that, if she was indeed coerced into doing this, which is entirely plausible, because I think the guy who coerced her allegedly into performing sex acts might coerce her as well into writing love letters to him, probably in an effort to have some ammunition like this, to go, well, look, she wrote me love letters. But the context is making this look even worse. And if this was meant to be some smoking gun key element here that Vince's lawyers absolutely wanted out there to sway opinion back towards Vince. It's looking pretty grim for Vince's defense. I don't think this is actually good at all, because if anything, it's actually continuing to compound the idea that a high-ranking official in, like, the highest ranking official in the company was having an illicit sexual affair with a relationship, let's put it that way, with an entry-level employee. So, which is not good. You can't do that. You know? So it only drives that point home. Like, this is, I don't know what the point here is, but this was not good. And by the way, Grant's letter also alludes to other people. Johnny, Nick, Brad, who we have all been identified. We all know who these are. But also the chef. I don't know who that is. Maybe it's Vince's personal cook. I don't know. Paul and Mickey. People who seem to have been aware of Vince's stuff here. Paul and Mickey are two new names that have popped up here. Anyway, we also found out, which is also very interesting in this little bit here, that the lawyers that are representing Vince in this affair are the same lawyers that represented MLW in their suit against WWE just very recently. I thought that was pretty funny. It's a very weird leak. It's a strange leak. I really don't think this is going to do what they were hoping this was going to do. I really do not. CM Punk was on the MMA Hour with Ariel Helwani. Yeah. So, no topics were off the table. No, we were ready to tackle everything. Oh, we got a mouthful. For the first time, CM Punk spoke publicly about his exit from AEW and so on and so forth. And he, I listened to the thing. It's a long interview. It's a very, very long interview. I don't know why they call it the MMA Hour, singular. This was really something else. But as expected, look, if no topic is off the table and you put CM Punk there and say, you can talk about whatever you want, he's going to talk about whatever he wants. And he just goes right at it. And listen, I started seeing the headlines. Let me give you a bit of context. I had started seeing the headlines, right, which were all revolving around AEW and whatnot, and I saw a few people saying, they didn't just talk about AEW. These people are the aggregators, the journalists. They're all cherry picking their headlines. They're cherry picking quotes. And I'm like, okay. So did he talk about AEW for 15 minutes? No, Christ, he did not talk for only 15 minutes about AEW. This took up the majority of the interview, if we're being honest. This took up a huge chunk. So regardless of what you say, what you're thinking and saying, even if you're like, the websites, the news sites were cherry picking the headlines, what other headlines came out of this that you feel were interesting? Because This is the first time that CM Punk has spoken about what happened in AEW since his release. I don't care what else he's talking about, unless he's talking about how he discovered, a way to splice human genes with dog genes to create human-dog hybrids. Outside of that, there is nothing there is nothing he could have said that would have made a more substantial headline. What else did CM Punk is excited to host the pre-shows on Saturday and Sunday during WrestleMania XL? Because that's what he said he's excited for. Is that your headline? Do you really want to talk about that? Because there's nothing there. That's not a headline. And that's fluff. It's, kayfabe, but work, whatever the hell you want to call it. Punk sitting down, talking about what happened with Jack Perry, talking about Hangman Page again, talking about Tony Khan and his leadership skills. That's news. That is exactly news. So if you're going around saying, people aren't being fair. No, they're being absolutely fair. Because Punk brought it up. Helwani asked the questions. Punk could have danced around it. He could have said, no, I don't want to answer it, whatever the fuck, but he answered it. So of course we're going in here. We're going hard. We're pulling up these quotes. What? Is he not going to say, WrestleMania, I'm excited to host. I'm not excited to host. It kind of stinks. I wish I was on the card. Oh, of course we know. But is he going to go downplay that? No, of course not. He's not a dummy. He knows how he knows how his bread is buttered right now. It's better than sitting at home doing nothing. He's on TV. They're having him do something. Anyway. I got a few highlights here. I really want to get to previewing shows. I really want to. But we have to cover this. It's CM Punk. He says his triceps is healing fast. But, WWE personnel are telling him to take it slow, right? Like he said, I would have been good to go, but they're telling me to take it slow. He's basically saying, I think he said this a little later, where he said it's so much different from when he got injured in AEW, when he got injured and people didn't talk to him for 6 months, right? Now they're like, where in WWE, they're scheduling physiotherapy and consultations and so on and so forth. I mean, this is the guy who sued the WWE doctors because they weren't taking good care of him a few years ago. Now, of course, things may have changed, but I'm just saying. There was litigation that ensued here. And I think it's funny that we're sitting here talking about, when I got injured in AEW, now I got injured here. My main takeaway from this little bit of conversation between Ariel and Punk here is, and if it wasn't apparent before, it should be clearer now. This guy is brittle. Like this guy wrestles and gets hurt. And I think at some point, WWE has to see the reality of this, that it's his triceps again, and he's going to tear it again, and he's going to have another injury, and they have to bubble wrap this guy. I don't know why they'd keep him around. If let me put it another way. At this point, maybe WWE, and maybe they don't care either, but maybe WWE is like, well, we're we're risking not getting our money's worth out of this guy. Because he's always talking about, I'm not here to make friends, I'm here to make money, I'm going to make money, going to make money. But what if every time it's time to make money, he gets hurt? You know, he comes back, one match, gets hurt, derails his WrestleMania plans. They have to fuck around with the card. And they fuck around with the card so much that despite the fact that we had an initial plan for it, that we're booking feuds past WrestleMania right now for him that are taking center stage instead of, anyway, we're going to talk about that later. Yeah. That's been, you know, I'm going to be curious to see as to what a CM Punk match is going to look like moving forward. There's no way he can still go as hard as he could. He gets hurt. He talked about some things, you know, basically confirming some reports that had been circulating around at the time, saying that he and Nick Khan had talked on the phone 5 days before Survivor Series last year. And he had an extensive FaceTime talk with Triple H to bury the hatchet at Survivor Series before Survivor, no, at Thanksgiving. He had done that at Thanksgiving just a couple of days before, you know, and coming in and saying, you know, you could probably count on two hands the number of people who knew I was coming back and so on and so forth. He talked about showing up at the Raw before the Collision debut and how he was kicked out and specified that it was a Vince move. And how people in AEW felt betrayed that he showed up there. And that was the word that he used, betrayed. And he's like, I just went to see some friends. Right? There's like, you know. Anyway. I just went to see some friends, sure. And betrayed was the word he used as well, right? That was the term that he employed. And I don't care. I don't care how you know, how much you like your friends or whatnot, but he was on the verge of debuting his new show, Collision, where he was the centerpiece. He was the you know, he was the connecting tissue of it all, the star of the show. And he goes, oh, I'm going to go stop in at Raw. And he's going, oh, I just came to see some friends. Like, come on. Like, there's no way. Like, come on now. He knew exactly what he was doing. He knew exactly what he was doing. He knew what this kind of situation would create. He can't sit here and seem surprised. No. Not CM Punk. Not CM Punk. I don't buy it for a second. I don't buy it for a single second. That provocateur, CM Punk, would grasp his pearls and be like, why do they think I betrayed them? What an overreaction for me going to see some friends at the rival company. He also buried Vince. And honestly, I think he unquestionably gave the best answer that any WWE wrestler has given so far in regards to the Vince allegations. I have the quote here. I'll read it here. He said this: there is no positivity there. I didn't read all the allegations. I read text messages. I went, oh, fuck this. It's indefensible. The easiest thing for people to do is ignore it or avoid it. It's there. My initial first thing out of my mouth was, I'm kind of shocked at how dumb he was writing stuff down and leaving that paper trail. It's horrific. At that point, all the energy should be used to, I don't know if you can, but make reparations or amends. There are victims here. What CM Punk thinks about Vince and the CM Punk-Vince relationship doesn't fucking mean anything. All that stuff takes a back seat. I'm more concerned about going forward. How did these people survive after suffering all of that trauma? That's my biggest concern. Like that. Kevin Owens had a tremendous response. I think this trumps it. I think this is better. But it certainly eclipses anyone else, milquetoast, anyone else employed by this company with their watered down milquetoast responses. I just want to move forward. Kind of bullshit. No. Good for it. Like, you got to give the man his credit here. That was a tremendous response. He also talks about how he wasn't crazy about the collision separation. He didn't think that was a good idea. He said this is what Tony wanted to do, and it's like, this is not what I wanted to do. So of course he's washing his hands of that and saying, oh. And again, I don't think he's lying. To be clear, I don't think he's lying that this is what Tony wanted to do. Instead of trying to settle everything, he wanted to separate people, have them on islands. We covered this topic a year ago numerous times. We don't have to rehash this right now. He also talked about AEW not being a business. He says, quote, "This isn't a real business. This isn't a business predicated on making money, drawing money, selling tickets, It's not what it was sold to me as. So let me go." This was one of the reasons he was. And then Ariel asked him straight up, was like, well, what is it a business of then? And CM Punk goes, I don't know. See, here's the very sad situation that's left with CM Punk here, is that now he's acclimated himself with the crowds of AEW haters, right? This, the cornets, and all the other weirdos on Twitter, He's acclimated himself to this crowd, and he's going to say what that crowd wants to hear. So he maintains some kind of love, some kind of credibility here, right? So, the fact that he's talking about AEW not being a business, this isn't a business predicated on making money. What is he talking about? Then what is it about? All businesses, the existence of a business is there to make money. There is no other reason for a corporation, any kind of business, any kind of LLC to be out there if it's not going to make money. Otherwise, you know what? It dies. It disappears. It's the lifeblood. There's no reason for a corporation to exist if it's not making money. So what is he talking about? Later on, he starts talking about, people there are more focused on, having 5-star matches than, quarter-filled arenas. Okay. I think that's a valid criticism to give. But whatever he's saying here is nonsense, and it's just feeding it's feeding the morons. It's feeding the Eric Bischoffs and their wise decisions, wise choices. It's just, that's all it's doing. He knows what he's doing here. You know what I mean? Like, this is a guy, CM Punk is too smart to not know what he's doing here. But and then he continues. He says, this of course, this choice quote, right, about the guaranteed money, right? It says, "Guaranteed money almost ruined pro wrestling. If you had to get paid on the house, the place would be drastically different." Talking about AEW, right? I'm gonna say that there isn't CM Punk is a pro wrestler who has, over the past 3 years, has benefited tremendously from guaranteed money. Now, this is another thing that the Cornets and the Bischoffs are going to start laying into, right? But CM Punk, with all of his injuries, If he was being paid off of house gates, probably wouldn't have thought was this guaranteed money shtick was so interesting, right? It's such a duplicitous, stupid thing. He's like, well, if people were paid on the house and he's talking, here's the thing. He's talking like he's this old school grizzled veteran, but he's a modern wrestler. He came up in the 2000s. Like, what is he talking about? Is he talking from experience? No. And look at what being paid on the house did to countless pro wrestlers in the 80s and up until guaranteed money started becoming a thing, right? Look at what they had to do. One of the reasons guys didn't want to miss dates and so on and so forth was because if they didn't make a date, they wouldn't make money, right? That just makes sense. What do a lot of them do? You know, they're injured, they're banged up. There's no medical attention. There's no, there's no trainer's room. There's nothing like that at these shows. What do? They take pills and booze. What happened? Like, that is a direct consequence too. What is he talking about? This actually sounds very pro-boss, if you know what I'm saying. This is something where where Nick Khan sort of listened to this and, that's a good quote. Because who benefits from who would benefit if contracts did not include guaranteed money? Who would benefit? The promoters, the companies. So this is a guy, workers' rights, so on and so forth, a guy who's for the people, a guy who's supposed to be anti-establishment, right? This CM Punk fella, hell, he even has Punk in his name, and he's having a very C-suite thought here, a very high level, boss level consideration here. You live long enough to become the villain, I guess. I don't know how anyone can still buy into this guy and still think, oh, CM Punk, yes, the voice of the voiceless and so on and so forth. I don't know why anyone can still swallow that shit. I really don't. I don't understand. It's become ever more transparent ever since he got back to WWE. He talks about not having transportation in Wembley when he landed in London. He confirms that there's a brawl-out NDA, but not for the Jack Perry stuff, though. And Ariel asks him about the Jack Perry stuff. He says, I really don't want to talk about all that stuff. But he proceeds to talk about the Jack Perry stuff at length. Why? Because CM Punk. That's why. He says people wanted him to get involved to keep Jack from doing the glass spot, right? Apparently, Tony Schiavone came to him. He got cussed out by Jack. And Tony Schiavone came to CM Punk and said, you got to do something. Because, it all started off where he wanted to do the spot on Collision, right? And CM Punk, if you remember the story, was like this kid just wants to take some time off when he had a planned vacation. When he had planned vacation time. Which would have been great, right? Which is perfect. So then, this all leads us to Wembley, and Jack does the Crimea River thing with the car, and CM Punk was giving reasons. He said to Ariel Helwani, with the straightest fucking face, I didn't want to bust up a rental car. I'm paraphrasing. I didn't want us to bust up a rental car because I didn't want us to develop a bad relationship with the rental car company or whatever the fuck. I don't know I can't remember if you named it. I didn't want us to have a bad relationship with the car rental company. He says that with a straight face. This is a billion. His boss is a billionaire. He could buy 3 other cars to add to the fleet for the one they messed up, for the windshield they messed up, and they just have to pay back. Jesus Christ. I thought that was funny as hell. So basically, so Jack Perry does the spot, Cry Me a River. Then backstage, CM Punk goes to see Tony Khan, and this is, of course, his recollection, and he says, "You have to handle this." TK is like, "Well, what do you want me to do?" I'm not, you're the boss, you know? I'm not going to tell you what to do, but you're the boss, handle it. If you don't handle it, you're not going to like how I'm going to handle it. So he goes up to Perry, he being CM Punk, goes up to Perry as he comes out, and he asks him, "Why are you doing dumb internet shit on TV?" Here's a guy, yes, of course, clear as the driven snow when it comes to, doing internet drama, bringing that onto television, right? Oh, he's clear as the driven snow. So why are you doing this on TV? I said, oh my God. And then the greatest quote to come out of this. He says, "I got to act like a professional. I got to do this." Here it is, folks. The greatest CM Punk quote of all time on how he handled this Jack Perry situation. Quote, "I thought I was doing a responsible thing. I didn't punch anybody. I just choked somebody a little bit. I didn't take a swing at someone. I just choked someone a wee bit." You're choking someone, whether it's a little bit or a lot, you're choking someone. Holy shit. And this was the responsible thing he thought he was doing here. Choking a dude out to the point he was choking him out just a little bit, but enough that Samoa Joe had to step in and tell him to stop. This is how bonkers this situation was. He chokes out Jack Perry until until Samoa Joe comes up to him to say, "Dude, stop." He calls, again, according to, look, there is no way this comes off as just or choked him out a little bit. Like, this is the greatest CM Punk quote, probably one of the greatest quotes in professional wrestling. Sometimes when I tell you about wrestler brain, sometimes, something, this is a great encapsulation. I had to do the responsible thing. I had to choke a guy out a little bit. I didn't punch anyone. I just choked someone out a little bit. As if this was better. It's tremendous. And I like that he admitted to it, but just a little bit. But it's still choking. And let's say, you're not going to be a judge. You're not going to, look, anyway, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. I got to move on. We got more stuff but this is tremendous. Anyway, he lets go of Perry, and this is where he calls Tony Khan a clown and tells him he quits. "I'm done." Goes back to his dressing room. Then apparently Samoa Joe and Jerry Lynn came to talk him into doing the match nonetheless because he didn't want to do it. And then he says, basically because he respects both guys, and it's, he did it for Joe because this is the last time he's going to be wrestling Joe and for the fans. he went out and did the match, came back, bought Nando's for everyone, and then was kicked out. Security came and was like, are you leaving soon? Yeah. So essentially, CM Punk says, that he doesn't feel like he did anything that would make people feel threatened. Okay, that's great. Talked about All Out, talked about the workers' rights promo with Hangman Adam Page and going backstage afterwards and saying, that he wanted something done about the workers' rights promo. He rehashes stuff we already knew. It's fine, but he keeps talking about AEW. He said that there was at one point Colt Cabana came to him to bury the hatchet. And Punk says he's not talking to him without his lawyer present. He says, I'm not talking to you without having my lawyer present, which is I think is fair. I can't blame CM Punk for doing that. There's been litigation, like good on Colt to try and, mend a fence. But I can't really blame CM Punk for being involved with someone deep into litigation where he's like, I'm not talking to you without having a lawyer present. I can understand that. I don't think it's an overreaction now. This is the guy who keeps telling everyone, my door is open, come and talk to me if you got a problem. But I think this is a good, what's the word I'm looking for? A good exception. There we go. I think this is a good exception in regards to his open door policy. Come talk to me about whatever, right? I may or may not choke you out a little if you do, but oh God. CM Punk, he reiterated that despite the criticisms, though, he wishes AEW well. The good that he has there, the good memories outweigh the bad, and he thinks that he and AEW are likely in different businesses and mindsets. And if he had realized that then, maybe he would approach things differently. I think that's a Lord of Horsepucky. I really do. I really don't. I don't think it's just a business thing. I think it's CM Punk. I think it's CM Punk being CM Punk, just being that presence, that dark cloud, whatever you want to call it, coming in, doing his thing, just being who he is, ultimately making things seem awful, and then saying, oh, everyone around me isn't professional. Why is it always everyone around him isn't professional? Why is it always, why is it always that? Why is it, the elite won't work with me? Okay, sure. Jack Perry's dead. Okay, all these people, Adam Page, he doesn't go after Mox, though. Doesn't go after Chris Jericho. Doesn't go after Danielson. Well, apparently he and Danielson or at least were on good terms. Because Danielson was part of the disciplinary committee that made the recommendation that he gets fired. It's all business. I don't like the drama, he says, but the truth is the truth. I don't like the drama. I don't believe that either. I don't believe that for a fucking second. This is a guy who still has emails he shared with a wrestling journalist in 2008 and pulls them up as receipts in the year of our Lord 2023. I do not buy that for a second. Anyway, it's talking about Tony Khan here. He is not a boss. He's a nice guy. Ultimately, that is a detriment to the company, but it's not my company. I'm an outsider. I thought it was brought in to sell tickets, to sell merchandise and tickets and draw numbers for pay-per-view. I clearly did that, but that's not what that place is. But that's not what the place is about. And some people didn't like that. I still don't know what he means by that. I honestly still don't know what he means by that. Other than just feeding weirdo, weirdo haters. This sounds like narratives to me. This sounds like discourse. I don't know what he means by that. That's not what they're about. Of course that's what they're about. Of course that is what they're about. I honestly don't know what he means about it. Anyway. It was an extremely CM Punk-like interview. I was surprised at how much she talked about AEW. In fact, I kind of think it's incredible that they brought on a guy who doesn't have a match booked on the show this weekend to talk about AEW, to hype up WrestleMania. Well, it's a hell of a strategy. They barely talked about WrestleMania. So again, everyone who's saying people are cherry picking headlines. No, not really. Really, not really. It's very strange to me. But listen, this is where we're at. CM Punk is, and let me close it up with this. CM Punk is happy right now, and we're still very much in the honeymoon period because everyone still lays out the red carpet for him. Everyone is always happy to see CM Punk and so on and so forth. We're still very much in that, in the glow, in the afterglow of all of this. But I promise you, keep this in mind. Mount Brooks will erupt again. It's not a question of if, it's a question of when. The minute things don't start going his way, he's going to call up all of these fake journos that he was talking about on Helwani. Called Helwani a real journalist. Well, he's not going to call Helwani when it's time to leak shit. I can promise you that. Ladies and gentlemen, it is WWE WrestleMania time. It's upon us. Let's go. Let's preview WrestleMania XL, aka WrestleMania 40, which is happening in just a few days this weekend, April 6 and 7, 2024, from the Lincoln Financial Field in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Look, it's WrestleMania. What more do you want me to say? There's nothing you can't already say that has, the showcase of the Immortals, the greatest show on earth, the even bigger than WrestleMania. No, that was another show. It'd be funny. It's like WrestleMania is bigger than WrestleMania. Other than, and I continue to maintain this, it's been a couple of years, right? And I think as wrestling fans, I have a tendency to make a distinction between WWE fans and wrestling fans. I don't, there's always exceptions, but I don't think, everyone always meshes with the two. I don't think there's that much crossover. And as wrestling fans, I think it's important to remember that WrestleMania in its modern setup is not for wrestling fans. It is the culmination of a year of what they want to be, and that is mainstream. To have that mainstream acceptance, the focus on the spectacle. It's not a show made for wrestling fans. WWE fans are going to devour it. That's, it's their mecca and it's fine. And I myself tune in because it's WrestleMania. You have to watch WrestleMania, right? So in that kind of mindset, I usually come in and I'm much more zen about things. I don't get as upset as I have over the past couple of years, or previous to that. I come in and I'm like, yeah, it's fine, and I see it for what it is, and I accept it for what it is. I'm very tolerant towards WrestleMania, so yeah, I think it's an important distinction, and I think it's a. I don't think I'm being I don't think I'm being mean here. I think I'm being pretty fair about it again. There's a couple of highlights regarding the WrestleMania show this year that I yanked off of Wikipedia between you and me. This is going to be the very first WrestleMania held after the company was sold to Endeavor and became a part of TKO. So that'll be very interesting. It will also mark the very first Triple H, Paul Levesque WrestleMania with his fingerprints all over it. There's no Vince. There's no, Vince was calling things in last minute. Vince was texting Bruce Pritchard. None of this. This is going to be Paul Levesque's first WrestleMania that is entirely his. So if it's good or if it sucks, it's all because of Paul. Booker of the Year, Paul Levesque. Let me get you into a secret here. A little. I don't think WWE pay-per-views have been all that great over the past 6-7 months. I think they're kind of bad. There's maybe a highlight on the shows, but they're not good shows. I thought Elimination Chamber was the pits. What was it? SummerSlam last year was really tedious. Anyway, look, I thought the Royal Rumble was a tedious affair as well. What was the one they did before that in December? I thought, all of them just come across as very complacent and dull and nothing exciting happening on them. These are pay-per-views, PLEs. And the last few, again, are all Paul driven. No more Vince. Really, truly, Vince is gone. So you cannot blame anyone else but Triple H. I don't think Triple H has had a very good track record so far putting on WWE PLEs. Now he's got their biggest show of the year, a true to form cultural icon in WrestleMania. What is he going to do with it? We're about to find out, brother. This is also going to be the final WrestleMania to live stream on the standalone WWE network. There's still parts of the world, like in Canada, that still have to resort to the network. We still have access to the network here as opposed to the United States where everything is on Peacock. This is going to be the last WrestleMania that is going to be live streamed on the network outside of the United States because as of January 2025, everything's going to Netflix. So there you go. So a couple of interesting little milestones here. First one that is completely out of the McMahon. Well, I think I made that. I think that was part of my Triple H discussion, right? There's no McMahons involved. No McMahons involved at all. Unless they have Shane run in to tear another triceps or biceps or whatever the fuck. What did he tear? An ACL? What did he do? Blow out his knee? What did he do? I don't remember. It really doesn't matter. maybe they will, who cares? Honestly, why am I devolving into why is this turning, Warren? Why is this turning into a conversation as to whether or not you want to see Shane McMahon on TV or not? Don't let that happen. Anyway. So this is happening 2 nights, of course, Saturday, Sunday. Last night on Monday Night Raw, that's it. On Monday Night Raw, they gave out the entire lineup for both nights, so we all know what to expect now. And boy, I sure am excited for Rock versus Cody. I'm excited for Drew McIntyre versus CM Punk. Oh wait, all those matches, they're not happening. What? They're basically building matches that aren't happening on the card right now, right? As much as it's a weird build, it's a strange build, but yet it's been effective, but not effective in the ways you'd want this build to be. Because I think it's been good. I think that from the moment they did the pivot, right? From the moment they did the pivot away from Rock versus Roman, because of the uproar from WWE fans wanting Cody, right? I think they've done a good job, but they've done a good job at building matches that aren't happening on the card. Like, Rock slaps Cody, then Cody gets his slap back a couple of weeks ago on SmackDown or whatever the fuck. And then 2 weeks ago, The Rock gets back at Cody and has Cody run the razor. And last night, they're in the ring and they beat the shit out of the baby faces, right? I'm like, what matches are we building here? Like, everything that has been captivating, that has been good, that people are up on their feet screaming about, this all involved The Rock and Cody. And we're not getting that match. Roman, the 2 top guys of WrestleMania weekend are Dwayne Johnson and Cody Rhodes. Period. I'm not accepting any arguments to the opposite. Roman is the 3rd guy in this feud, and he's headlining night 2. But he's the 3rd guy. And don't even talk about Seth. Seth was geeked out. And you can go back, because I was still alive. No, did I do anything? No, I think I was still alive. But this all happened while I was out at the Royal Rumble and when I was really not feeling well. Fresh off the surgery. The minute Seth Rollins came to Cody and pitched him the idea of challenging for the World Heavyweight title, from that moment on, that is patient zero. That's the starting point. That's the epicenter of Seth's overall geekification. There we go. His geekification is started right there when he came to pitch to Cody, don't challenge for the real big title that has the lineage, come fight for mine. And then Cody ultimately accepted because he handed off his title shot to Roman, for Roman to The Rock, but this has been forgotten in the lore of this build. This has been completely forgotten. But from that point on, Seth has been a complete and utter geek. He's been the 4th guy in everything. showing up in the background and, showing up in the background for their press conference thing where they had The Rock and Roman and Cody. And he was there too. He was just hanging off in the back, Roman calls him little bro. I can't deny. He does feel like a little bro. And then they have they set all that stuff up, and then they finally start giving Seth a match for WrestleMania because they're like, okay, tag team, and what do we get with Drew McIntyre? But CM Punk and Drew McIntyre are just trading barbs. They had a pretty fun promo off in Chicago 2 weeks ago on that Raw. It was messy. It wasn't, it was messy, but that good kind of messy, like the good kind of messy where you're like, all right, there's still stuff going on here. Felt organic, felt fun. It didn't feel like they were reading off lines that they had memorized. It was good. It felt good. Then Seth comes in the air, people do, whoa. And then when that's done, the air gets sucked out of the room. Like, Seth is being geeked out by a feud that can't even, by a match that can't even happen because one of the guys has been taken out. Like, there is nothing here. Nothing that you can say that will convince me that Seth Rollins, oh yeah, looking good here, Seth. He's not. It's been shit. He looks like a geek. And Roman, like I said, likes to call him little bro, but fucking A if Roman isn't little bro to The Rock. Let's be honest here. And it's not fair, but this is what it is nonetheless. The Rock, Dwayne Johnson, is in a class of charismatic pro wrestlers that you can count on one hand as far as charisma, owning a room. Like, this is a guy who, it's not fair for any of these guys to be put side by side with him. He takes up all the attention. And not only because that's always how he's been in pro wrestling, or at least once they decided to pull the trigger on him, but then on top of that, he went to Hollywood, so he has all this other whole level, this entire other aura. He's a huge movie star. He's an international superstar. Superstar in the Oxford Dictionary sense, not in the WWE definition. And he's there with Roman. Roman in his sweats and his man bun, his messy bun. His t-shirts, doing this. Lifting the finger up in the air. Dwayne is there looking like a superstar. With the shirts and the slacks and the glasses, and he's jacked to the gills. You're like, fuck yes, this is what he's supposed to look like. This is what a superstar looks like. You think Roman, we talk a lot about Seth being geeked, but Roman inadvertently here has lost a lot of luster. Hey, they ain't been talking much about that 1,000 legendary 1,000 day reign. It hasn't been being pushed down our throats. Head of the table, bloodline, all this bullshit, sure. It's been a fascinating operation to see how this pivot, which was probably the best thing to do, right? Because honestly, it was laughable when they decided Cody was going to hand off his shot to The Rock. It was funny. It was funny. It was like, of course this is what we're doing. People telling me all last year, oh, Cody's going to win the Royal Rumble again next year, and then he's going to win off of Roman, and then The Rock comes in to challenge. I'm like, all right, this is fantastic. Cody's going to finish the story with the geek belt, with the belt with no lineage, the belt that doesn't matter, the consolation prize, the silver medal. the participation effort trophy. You know, whatever you want to call it. I don't think Roman's coming out of this looking better. I don't think he's benefited from this. I think Roman kind of looks like a dope. Not a dope, but definitely whatever aura he had was sucked away. Now listen, this just goes to prove a point. This aura that everyone kept telling me that Roman Reigns has, this aura of champ, that he's this indefensible, not indefensible, excuse me, that's the wrong term. This incredible champion with this tremendous aura, this legendary stature that he has. If he was half as big, half as legendary, if this aura was as impressive and real as people make it out to be, he would not end up being in the shadow of Dwayne Johnson. He would at the very least be right up there looking as sharp as he does, but he doesn't. So the proof here that I said, proof positive, that a lot of this shit is made up in people's minds. Or kids who have never watched pro wrestling for more than a couple of years. There is no aura to Roman Reigns. This is all fabrication. It's years of culminating to this point. Because what do you hear? What do you hear when you hear about this feud, that The Rock has been tremendous, and he has. And I'm not quite sure what the controversy is. People are mad that he's cursing or something. It's like, who cares? Go ahead. Or people who are not mad that he's cursing, and then they have Cody run the razor on Raw, and then suddenly the Attitude Era is back. What are they calling it? The Renaissance Era, right? That's what I'm seeing. The Renaissance Era. It's funny. It shouldn't be called that because you're admitting that what happened before was bad. You know, the Renaissance, in like when you use it in its proper context, I don't mind, use it. If you want to use the Renaissance in your context, that's fine. But the Renaissance happened after a little period of human history that we outright call the Dark Ages. The Dark Ages. Okay? That's why there wouldn't be a Renaissance without this period in human history where, where people were not enslaved, but were put to work, were given harsh conditions, where ignorance was rampant. There was no education, nothing scholarly. Groups of power would manipulate and be in charge of people. If it weren't for the Dark Ages, there wouldn't be a Renaissance. So what you're telling me, WWE fans, by calling this the Renaissance, is what happened before wasn't good. There's an implicit admission that what happened previously was not good. And I agree with you. Don't get me wrong. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that the past, 6 to 7 years in WWE was tremendous. But I think the fans calling this the Renaissance era don't know what they're saying. They're implying you can't have a Renaissance if you didn't have a Dark Age before. Anyway, people are all excited about this. But here's the thing. Cody has absolutely been holding his own, though. I don't think he's not on the level of Dwayne, but I'll be damned if he's not overshadowing both Seth and Roman at this point. He really and truly is. He's been doing fantastic work. He really has. Because he gets it. He loves this shit. You think that he needed some convincing to Blade? Do you think someone had to sit down, a good 15-minute production meeting? Cody, we have something to talk to you about. Can you have a seat? No, he's like, sure thing, pal. And it happens, and then suddenly WWE fans think this is suddenly the greatest Raw of all time. Because you have this. And because earlier on, you have CM Punk and Drew McIntyre going at each other, in a format that feels unscripted and natural, right? And then it's the greatest Raw of all time. And I think, and then you have a guy blading, and they're not going, oh my goodness. They're going, yeah, this fucking rules. So maybe there's hope for them. I can't help but find it curious that the minute that pro wrestling things happen on a pro wrestling show, WWE fans go, whoa, this rules. Isn't that interesting? But then they'll go back and they'll defend, But then when there's things that are objectively good, and here's the thing, I liked the Rock beatdown at the end of that Raw 2 weeks ago. I liked the beatdown that Cody and Seth took last night at the end of the Raw. That's how you should finish a go home show. This is fine. But it's nothing like earth-shattering. They're good, but I'm not like greatest beatdown of all time. Great, What are these? Are WWE fans just closet wrestling fans? It kind of makes you wonder now moving forward. Like, what if WWE started actually being more pro wrestling and less sports entertainment, right? This is what I keep telling. This is what I keep saying is that you could have this every week. You could have this every other week if you wanted. If you watched anything else than WWE like this, these kind of matches and angles that make you feel shit, that make you go, oh fuck, pro wrestling is great, it happen quite frequently. I'm not just talking about AEW here. I'm not just saying every Wednesday night. Every Saturday night. Oh. Fucking watched the CMLL show last Friday, which was tremendous. You pop into the Japanese circuit, it's amazing. Like there's good stuff everywhere that will make you feel this kind of stuff. It's weird. Like, anyway, I'm going a little off topic here, but they're going crazy. And, I think one of the most cringe things that WWE fans are saying these days is that the Attitude Era is back. That's cringe. And the romanticization of the Attitude Era is one of the things holding back, I think, WWE fans from truly enjoying what they're watching. Because why are they applauding if they want the Attitude Era so back? If they want to feel, authentic, real pro wrestling again, then why are they selling out tickets with the schlock that's being presented to them right now? Which, as I like to say, is not a pro wrestling show, but a show about pro wrestling. Why are they selling out tickets doing that if they want something else? You're not being consistent with your metrics here. And anyway, going back to the Attitude Era, an era which was filled with ultimately terrible wrestling, confusing angles, offensive angles on top of that. There's a lot of romanticization, because a lot of old guys sort of came up watching that period of pro wrestling. So it mean like it's nostalgia. I think that's powering it, which makes it cringe. It was the most successful business, was the wrestling boom. Okay, but it's still cringe. Like, I made fun of calling this the Renaissance era. Well, call it whatever you want. Let's try something else. Let's try something new, Instead of always trying to harken back to that one moment where there was lightning in a bottle that you will probably never be able to reproduce ever, as effectively. Stop trying to recapture that formula. Try to create something that is exciting for the modern palate instead. I'm all over the place right now. Like, I'm looking at my notes and I'm like, Jesus, I've been talking about so much stuff. Look, I think they've been doing a good job building the main events to WrestleMania, but not in the way. But look, they've been doing a good job building WrestleMania without building the main events well, if that makes sense. Right? Because right now, I feel like the things that feel hot in regards in WWE right now are Drew and CM Punk and Cody and The Rock. I think that's what happens. I think those are the hottest programs, and neither of them are happening on the show. Oh, but Warren, yes. They are building matches for after WrestleMania to continue stories. I'm like, okay. Well, but why aren't you building hype for the biggest show of the year for WrestleMania? Why aren't you focused? Why are you focused on building matches for SummerSlam? Who cares right now? Start building for SummerSlam after WrestleMania. I swear. Look, if another company did this, building matches that aren't on the upcoming pay-per-view, we'd have 600-word thought pieces on how this is, creative is all over the place. Tony Khan sucks. Considering maybe that other company was AEW, of course. It's just an absolute disaster on that front. And I don't think Cody versus Roman feels hot. I think it only feels hot because people want Cody to win this year. I think that's the only reason it feels hot. Look, the bloodline started, when the bloodline kicked off, everyone saw the end result of Dwayne versus Roman, right? That was what all of this was being pushed towards. Then Dwayne comes back and he's on the board of directors, so he's throwing his weight around. If you don't think he was throwing his weight around, coming in with his own writer on top of that, if you don't think he wasn't doing that, I've got some global force gold I'd like to talk to you about. But then Dwayne pivots himself. Dwayne sees how the wind is shifting, and he's like, Cody's the guy here. We got to put Cody in this position. That's what we got to do. No one else took him off of this. Again, like at the top of this card, it's a bunch of people handling their own creative. At the top of this, if you don't think Dwayne isn't handling his own creative, you're nuts. If you don't think Roman Reigns and Paul Heyman haven't been calling the shots of this bloodline angle for a while now, you're nuts. This is, it's not genius moves by Triple H here. This is how it's going. Look. This is The Rock. Seeing the reactions that Cody's getting is like, nah, man, we're not gonna do this. I don't want to be in a Blue Tista type of situation where people are gonna reject me. This is not what I came back for. I'm here for some image rehabilitation, which is working, by the way. I saw an article from a non-wrestling affiliated publication saying to the effect, The Rock is doing the best work of currently doing the best work, currently doing his best work he's done in years, and he's not even in movies. So it's working. This rehabilitation for Dwayne is working. He's in a great position with the WWE universe. Everything's coming together. The point being is that the match was supposed to be Roman versus The Rock, and if you don't think that if you think it's still not happening, again, you're nuts. It's going to happen, and not at WrestleMania, of course, but soon. But here's the look. Here's who do I think is going to win? Right? Is it Roman? Is it Cody? Look, all signs point to Cody Rhodes winning. But just like last year, where you're like, common sense would dictate that Cody Rhodes is going to win. Just like this year, all signs point to Cody Rhodes picking up the dub, right? Finishing the story. They've been hammering that one home tons and tons. But listen to me very carefully. I would not put it above anyone. That Roman Reigns retains and we continue down the historic 1,000-day reign. Because I'm going to tell you, the one thing, keep in mind, Roman and Paul have their say in this, and they probably have more say than a lot of us realize. Deciding to who they're going to drop the title to, right? I submit unto you the following. Roman Reigns in this build has come off as Lil Bro. If you take the title off of Roman Reigns right now, he is going to this aura is going to not only crack, but it's going to fall apart. Right now, the only thing that's keeping Roman Reigns truly relevant and truly a legend, quote unquote, I'm doing air quotes here, a superstar in this environment where he is being outclassed by superstars, is the Universal Championship. I submit unto thee that come WrestleMania, there's a meeting, they sit down. I'm not even sure I wouldn't even be, I am convinced that they don't even know who the winner is still yet. They're still lobbying, they're still jockeying. I submit this. Someone sits down, they all get around the table, and they outright admit if Roman loses the title, he loses a lot of his luster. He's our guy. The Rock's going to fuck off at some point. And he's the guy. And we have to continue this bloodline thing because we gotta do the blow off with The Rock. And honestly, doing a blow off against The Rock while Roman has already lost, makes the whole thing much less interesting. You feel what I'm saying? You see where I'm going here? I would not be surprised in the slightest that Dwayne Johnson is the same Dwayne Johnson that puts in his contracts to studios that he can never lose a fight. Dwayne Johnson is the guy that has been marked to beat Roman Reigns. I believe it. So, listen. While I sincerely believe that the best course is to have Cody win, the best course of action is to have Cody win the match, I really do believe that there is a strong case to be made to have Roman hold on to the title and not lose and continue the reign, because that's all he has. That's all Roman has. It's not incredible promo skills. It's not tremendous 5-star matches. It's not, and I still think this aura is a fabrication. It exists in because people keep telling you about it, that eventually you'll believe it, because you see what a man with an aura does. You see The Rock in the ring, you're like, this is what a man with an aura looks like. Roman is not that. Sorry to say. I'm sorry. Or am I? Not really. There's really a case to be made for Roman hanging on to the title. I would not be surprised. It actually makes more sense than it did last year for Roman to hang on to the title this year. And listen, on night one, the tag match, the Rock and Roman Reigns versus Cody Rhodes and Seth Rollins match has the stipulation, right? If Rhodes and Rollins win, all members of the Bloodline will be banned from ringside on night 2. And if the Bloodline wins, the championship match on night 2 will be held under Bloodline rules, which is basically a plunder match. And I think whoever wins, I think whoever wins will tell you very clearly who's going to win night 2. If the baby faces win, the heels are winning on night 2, and vice versa. I really do think that's how it's going to go. And don't forget, even if the baby faces win, Tama Tonga is supposed to be in on board with WWE, and they wanted him to be a part of this Bloodline thing. I don't think this is done. And I think they're going to do the Clash at the Castle finish. Where Drew was fighting. You remember that? Where Drew was fighting Roman and the Bloodline was banned. But Solo Sikoa, who wasn't officially a member of the Bloodline, ran in and cost the match, right? Remember that? I think they're going to do that with Tama Tonga. I absolutely would not put that above them to do that. Look, if Cody wins, for WWE fans, I really do hope that Cody wins, because it will be a great release valve, and it'll make sense, and it'll be good for the hero to have overcome all the obstacles and so on and so forth. It's good. It's logical, good storytelling. We wouldn't be in this spot to begin with if they had just done the thing last year, but this is where we are. When it comes to Roman, when it comes to Roman, basically, when it comes to if Roman were to win, this is what I'm trying to say. If Roman were to win the match and Cody loses, I mean, this is the kind of chaos that I love. Like, I'm going to be fully invested in this. This is what pro wrestling, this is how tremendous pro wrestling can be sometimes. I love this kind of chaos, but I will also acknowledge that it's going to suck. But I don't think they're done with this bloodline thing. I really don't. I think, you know, Paul Heyman was saying it himself, you know, he reiterating his bottom of the third inning analogy from last year. He said early in an interview a couple of weeks ago, you know, I don't know what inning we're in right now, but there's still a lot more to come. And I believe it. I don't think people realize how much Roman needs this to be the legendary champion that WWE wants him to be, because he's not otherwise. Anyway, I want to reiterate the reasons, but so this is where I'm at right now. Cody should win. Cody should win, but there's a substantial reason. There's substantial enough reasoning for Roman Reigns to pull it off and retain. Let's see what else is happening on this card. So let's start with night one, Saturday. We have Rhea Ripley defending the Women's World Championship against Becky Lynch, of course. A bit of a I should be more excited for this than I am. I don't know why I'm not. Maybe it's because, look, Rhea's had, I want to say too many things. You know, Becky is still a star for this company, but she's absolutely not as hot as she once was. And I think Rhea is a big star for this company. And I think she is hot, but she seems hotter than she is, if that makes sense, you know, because I know a lot of people, they like the mommy stuff and they go nuts on Twitter, and a lot of people who are very, you know, react very passionately about her regarding her horny takes and whatnot. But I don't think Rhea Ripley's reign as champion in WWE has been all that great, really. Now, we know she can pull it out when it's time to, when it's the big matches, when it's WrestleMania time. You know, Rhea in her match with Charlotte last year was tremendous, and a couple of years ago when we were still in the pandemic era, and Ripley was all like, "Oh, I'm so happy to be here." Remember that? She had a great match with Charlotte there too. Last year was tremendous. Here, I mean, look, this is who she's defeated in her close in her full year plus reign as Women's World Champion. Okay, of course, defeated Charlotte for the title, Zelina Vega, Natalya, Raquel Rodriguez, Zoe Stark, Ivy Nile, and Nia Jax. And none of these matches, outside of the Charlotte one, stand out. None of these matches are matches where you're like, oh, hell yeah. What a tremendous... She has had, effectively, a very, very boring title reign against very, very iffy competition. And this is why when people tell me it's like WWE has the best women's division in the world, I look at this and I'm like, do they? Then again, I will always argue that there is no major North American promotion right now that does their women's divisions well. No. And having 3-minute match. Oh, they have many more women's matches, but if they have 3-minute matches, what's the point? What are you trying to do? No one gets over in 3 minutes. I'm sorry, they don't. You know, I saw Maxine Dupree in a tag team match last night. Ivy Nile was her partner against Candice LeRae and Indy Hartwell. And that audience could not be more dead. They went in and had a 3-minute match, and this is a story. This is a story they're telling, one of these great stories that WWE is so great, talking about. And there you go. They get dead heat, nothing. Like you want to hear a crowd react for nothing? There you go. Watch that match from the April 1st edition of Raw. It is a dead crowd for that match. I mean, and I like Rhea Ripley, and I think she has a future. I think she's one of the most compelling. She is one of the most important, significant athletes that pro wrestling has. Under 30, she's going to have a tremendous career. She has all the potential. But no one's going to tell me this title run was great. Not when you're peppered in with Zelina Vegas and Nia Jax's and Ivy Niles. No. You're not making the case for me. So I don't know. I want to say who cares. I feel Ripley. I feel Rhea needs this. She needs a big win against a real established, competent, beloved pro wrestler. You know, winning in front of her country people in Perth, Australia against Nia Jax. What a dismal match that was too. That's not going to cut it. Gunther is defending the WWE Intercontinental Championship against Sami Zayn again on night one. They're doing the Sami is the underdog story. He's being trained by Chad Gable, who is no longer a goof. Doesn't do the shoosh, and he does. He's no longer a goof. Now he's a serious wrestling trainer. He can't do shit with Akira Tozawa and Otis and Maxine Dupree. But Sami Zayn, but that's what they're doing. Like Sami Zayn, they had Gunther beat him down on Raw last night, and Sami was always getting back up. So that'll be the story. Sami, for all intents and purposes, it seems like Sami's going to win. And I wouldn't be surprised that if, Sami wins to defeat the long reigning Gunther, the long reign of Gunther, the legendary reign of Gunther as Intercontinental Champion. I wouldn't be surprised if WWE goes, no, then we're going to do one legendary streak being ended, but we're going to keep the other one. I'm telling you, there's so many red flags, so many flags, not red flags, but flags, just things you should be paying attention to. Honestly, this has the potential to be the best match of the weekend. These are two wrestlers who have been at one point, Sami Zayn at one point was the greatest wrestler in the world. Or at least the top 5, right? There's a point in his history that this guy is just tremendous. And Gunther has always been one of the greats. This has the potential to be tremendous and probably be the match of the weekend. Like, I believe this, well, match of the show. Both nights. That's my bar for Gunther versus Sami Zayn. Oh, no, that's not fair. That's not fair. But it's going to be a great match. Great match is my bar. Match of the week, match of the show, match of the night, match of the pay-per-view, match of the weekend. Yeah, it's plausible. But a great match is the bar. Let's be fair here. 6-pack tag team ladder match for the Undisputed Tag Team Championships. So this is everyone in the pool. I don't know. Who cares? It's a ladder match. It doesn't matter. It really doesn't. The only thing that I want to point out is that there were reports coming out that apparently Austin Theory and Grayson Waller. By the way, has there been another pro wrestler in WWE who's fallen from grace so hard from Vince being ousted from the company than Austin Theory? Here's a guy, we were told, oh, he's a Vince project, he's a Vince project, he's a Vince project. And the minute Vince is completely erased, look at what this guy is doing now. This guy was a US champion. He was getting TV time. He was wrestling John Cena at WrestleMania. Now he's a geek. He's a geek backing up Grayson Waller. Don't get me wrong. I always thought Austin Theory was highly overrated. I think he's fine where he is. It's just interesting to see. Yeah, so there's these two guys. So these two guys, apparently, their participation might be in flux. I think this is the Observer that reported this, that their participation might be in flux, which has led some speculation as to whether or not the Hardy Boys might return. Honestly, go for it. Bring the Hardy Boys back. I have no use. It's fine because look, as you know, I don't watch WWE on a regular basis. I only watch the PLEs and some choice moments like the build recently and whatnot. Like, I have no interest in the Hardy Boys on regularly on TV anymore. It's fine. It would be absolutely fine by me. Anyway, Judgment Day, of course, defending. Damian Priest still has his Money in the Bank briefcase. He's going to have to cash that in soon, right? Because Money in the Bank is the next pay-per-view. I'm already thinking too much about it. DIY, The Awesome Truth, The New Day, which is Kofi and Woodsy, Theory and Grayson, and the New Catch Republic, Pete Dunne and Tyler Bate. These are talented wrestlers, you know? It cannot not be bad. I just don't care. And I don't care about ladder matches and so on and so forth. Jimmy Uso versus Jey Uso in a brother versus brother match. I'm not invested enough to this for me to care. Can we stop calling him main event Jey Uso when he's deeply entrenched in the mid card? Because that's where he's going to stay. Let's cut that shit out. Let's stop that. Stop. Bianca Belair, Naomi, and Jade Cargill are taking on, the Damage Control trio of Kairi Sane, Asuka, and Dakota Kai. This, of course, will be Jade Cargill's big debut. They trotted her out on SmackDown last week to stand in the ring. And now she's going to be in a 6-man tag match. Look, I don't have a problem with this. She's look, you already know how this match is going to be structured. You haven't even seen the match, and you know how it's going to go down. She might start off the match to get some licks in, but then she's going to tag out to Bianca and Naomi, and probably Naomi is going to eat shit for the match. She's going to Ricky Morton this. She's going to eat shit for the majority of the match. Maybe tag in Bianca, and then she'll eat some shit. And then Jade Cargill's going to get the big hot tag at the end. She's going to throw a couple of moves. She's going to do her jaded move, and that'll be that. And I don't have a problem with that. Mask the weaknesses, highlight the strengths. This is what they have to do. And this is what WWE is good at. I mean, I laughed recently when I read an article saying, a report saying that WWE had consulted with all of their producers. Like, all of the producers had a meeting. Everyone gave input as to how Jade should be presented. I'm like, well, this is it. Like, of course, this is what they're focused on. This is what they need. It doesn't matter how Jade performs in the ring to WWE fans. They just want her to look like a star. Again, which is fine. This is why she's better off in WWE to begin with. You know, she'll come in, and all you'll see the next day is how all the pundits are going to talk about how big of a star she looks. Wow, she looks tremendous. And, you know, and AEW dropped the ball. AEW never dropped the ball on Jade Cargill. They just didn't know how to handle her like she should be. And WWE is the perfect home for her. That's just, it's as simple as that. That's how it goes. So she'll come in, she'll do her power moves, and that'll be that. And I still think she's not ready, but we'll see. But I still think she's not ready. You know, and here's something interesting. You know, it's like, you know, how much, you know, emphasis is put by WWE fans on Jade Cargill and how great she's going to be and how much of a star she's going to be. Whereas in AEW fans, especially with the, you know, in the circles I gravitate in, I haven't heard anyone say, gosh, golly gee willikers, I miss Jade Cargill. That doesn't happen. That is never something that is said. I have never heard someone talk about AEW and say, boy, we sure miss Jade Cargill. No one says that. I think everyone feels good that she's off in WWE because, yes, it is a better fit for her. But this is going to turn into some sort of weird thing where AEW fans are probably going to be like, yeah, good for her. And WWE fans are going to be like, WWE fans are going to be very aggressive about it, whereas people like me are going to be like, well, yeah, good for her. Yeah. I mean, she's winning her match. That's inevitable. Is it just me? Is it just me? Or does she not look as cut as she was a few months ago? And I'm not saying she's slacking off. You know, like her build, right? Her abs. I saw her standing next to Bianca, and maybe it's just, you know, because both of them were next to one another. Man, Bianca looked like chiseled, and I had the impression, maybe it's just because I haven't seen Jade Cargill in a while, but I had the impression that Jade was just as chiseled and had these tremendous abs and these huge, you know, defined muscular structures. And I was like, have they told Jade to cut back on the strength training so as to not overshadow Bianca? Would that be a thing they do? It's absolutely a thing they do. But did they do that? Or is it just in my mind? Maybe it's just in my mind. Anyway. And then to close off our discussion on night one of WrestleMania, Rey Mysterio and Dragon Lee are taking on Santos Escobar and Dominic Mysterio. I could not give a toss. You know, everyone's like, oh, Lucha Libre. Look, you want Lucha Libre, watch Lucha Libre. Whatever you're going to get here. Dirty Dom Mysterio is the farthest from a Lucha Libre as you could possibly be. Anyway, I don't want to spend too much time on that. Night 2, we've got ourselves Seth Rollins versus Drew McIntyre. Of course, I'm not rehashing the tag team title in the Universal. We went over the main events earlier. Night 2, Seth Rollins versus Drew McIntyre. So the story that they're saying is that they're building here is that Drew basically is complaining that Seth is Drew is complaining that Seth is involved in all these extracurricular activities before going into his match. And he's afraid that he's saying, oh, Seth is not going to be 100% and he's going to bitch and moan when he loses, kind of thing. And sure, I buy into that. That makes sense. I could see Drew winning here. I could see Drew winning, and it would be really funny then. Then he gets into a feud with CM Punk, and Punk wins the secondary title. I think it would be tremendous. Anyway. It should be pretty good. I mean, these are two good pro wrestlers, and I love Drew. I think, look, there's the potential for a very good match here. Io Sky will be defending her WWE Women's Championship against Bayley. Let's pull up Io Sky title rings, because I don't think her reign, which started off with a cash-in, do not forget. I don't think it has been all that great either. She won it. So there you go. So that's it. She wins it off of Bianca Belair with the cash-in. Then she has Zelina Vega. Well, okay. Her reign has, she's had 7 defenses. And we're talking, we've got Asuka, we've got Charlotte Flair. We've got, she did have that dismal match at Fastlane, that triple threat with Asuka and Charlotte Flair. And, she fought Bianca Belair again. And, you got, Mia Yim. You got Zelina Vega in there. That's why I'm saying it's like, I keep being told it's the greatest women's division in all of pro wrestling. And I'm looking at the champion and their defenses. And I'm like, this isn't great. It's just not. Anyway, yeah, I don't know if does this audience even remember Bayley, like mega babyface NXT Bayley? Is that even something we can tap into? Is a Bayley babyface turn in 2024 something that will be effective? I don't know. If you ask me, Io Sky should retain. I like Bayley. I've been a Bayley guy for years. But she's been injured. It's not the same Bayley. You know what I mean? But look, we'll give it a shot. We'll see what happens. AJ Styles versus LA Knight. I don't even know what this is about. All I know is AJ Styles attacked. AJ Styles somehow entered the impenetrable elimination chamber to attack LA Knight during the match. And I don't know. Help me out here, those of you who are plugged into the WWE scene more than I am. LA Knight are we done? Is he cooled down? He feels cooled. Doesn't feel hot. Like a couple of months ago, that's all WWE fans could talk about, and how great of a talker he is, and he is. Eli Drake is up. You can never take that away from him. He's a tremendously mid wrestler, but a hell of a talker. AJ Styles with his new physique. I don't know. I don't know. It's crazy how little interest I have in AJ Styles in 2024 when he's a wrestler I love for years. Now it's like he's a guy. He's just a guy. He's just a guy in meaningless matches doing silly shit. I don't know. All right, whatever. Logan Paul defends the United States Championship in a triple threat match against Randy Orton and Kevin Owens. You know, Logan Paul, as far as I understand, is, you know, he's on some kind of part-time deal. He's not a full-timer. Kevin Owens is a former U.S. champion and probably had one of the best U.S. champion runs, being the new face of America. I don't know if you remember that. You're putting on Randy Orton. The WWE fans, they love their Randy Orton, don't they? They love their mid wrestlers. They love these very mid pro wrestlers. I have no opinion. What do you do here? You put it on Orton. You make the crowd go home happy. You put it on Orton. I don't think anyone cares that it's on Kevin Owens or not. No one likes Logan Paul. He's a heel. And then we have The Pride, which is Bobby Lashley's group with the Street Profits, against The Final Testament, which is Karrion Kross's group with the Authors of Pain, in a 6-man Philadelphia street fight. I could not care less about. How is this a WrestleMania match? How is this on WrestleMania? Look, I don't want to defend the Andre the Giant Battle Royale, which is, you know, its own piece of garbage, waste of time in and about itself. They put it on SmackDown now. Hey, by the way, Shinsuke Nakamura is in the Andre the Giant Battle Royal. Is this still part of the Nakamura push? I've been told he's being pushed. Dave Meltzer told me Shinsuke Nakamura was being pushed. Is this part of the push? Because it doesn't feel like a push to me. Anyway, being thrown into the Andre the Giant Battle Royal. But the point that the Andre the Giant Battle Royal was a staple on WrestleMania before they bumped it to the SmackDown previous, right? On the night before. They have between having this 6-man Philadelphia street fight and the Andre the Giant Battle Royal, I'd put the Andre the Giant Battle Royal on this anytime. What are we doing here? Like, this is nonsense. Who cares? Why I don't get it. There's probably some deep lore here. I see BFAB is involved in this. Oh boy. Scarlett and Paul Ellering are in this as well. I mean, good for them for getting paychecks, don't get me wrong. So, again, like, I don't hold WWE PLEs, even WrestleMania, to any standards that I usually have for others. Because, you know, I always come in very apprehensive because they always sort of end up to be disappointing affairs. You know, a lot of the focus is on the main events, as it should. But a lot of the builds have also included matches that aren't on the card. I think Gunther versus Sami Zayn has the potential to be the best match of the entire show. Whereas everything else is, you know, the six-pack black matter lack match is gonna, it's the spot fest. It's gonna be fine. I don't have a problem with it, but that's what it's gonna be. It's gonna be the spot fest, and that'll be fine. People get excited. You know, the everything else just sort of seems to happen, you know. Maybe Rhea Ripley and Becky Lynch are going to surprise us and deliver a hell of a match. And fingers crossed that they do. But I don't see anything else lighting up the show, really. And we'll see what happens with Roman Reigns versus Cody Rhodes. I mean, that's going to be the center point, the centerpiece, the epicenter. Again, I'll reiterate, I wouldn't put it past them to have Roman retain. I wouldn't even be surprised if they do the Clash at the Castle finish, but with Tama Tonga this time instead of Solo Sikoa. Wouldn't be surprised in the least. Boy, I've been talking a lot. Surprise, surprise. There's also another WWE show happening this weekend, NXT Stand and Deliver. That's happening on the Saturday, April 6th from the Wells Fargo Center in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. You know, sometimes I can't help but look at where we're at with NXT shows these days and how far removed we are from takeovers. It's crazy. It's crazy. It really is. We've got this. This is what we're doing here on this show. We're having Ilya Dragunov versus Tony D'Angelo. This is your main event. Tony D'Angelo, who is a mid-pro wrestler and a cartoon, and just someone who is 100% non-credible to be in this type of spot, is in this spot for this show, taking on Ilya Dragunov. Dragunov's going to have to pull out some of his magic to make this happen, because I'm not excited for this. I think this kind of stinks. I think this is a bad this is not your WrestleMania weekend match main event. This is one that you run on one of these, on Halloween Havoc or a Beach Blast or whatever the fuck they call it now. It's like one of these, these themed shows that they have. This is a main event for one of those on a Tuesday night, which is fine. But for your WrestleMania weekend show, it's objectively bad. No, I'm not into it. Then you have Baron Corbin and Braun Breaker defending the NXT Tag Team titles against the winners of the Tag Team Championship Eliminator Tournament, who right now is going to be a three-way match that's going to happen tonight, as I'm recording this, on NXT on April 2nd, so I don't have the final answer for this. Either between Whack and Wild and Cruz del Toro from the Latino World Order, or Axiom and Nathan Frazier, or the OC, Luke Gallows and Carl Anderson. Baron Corbin and Braun Breaker, they get along, but they also don't get along. I don't know. Lyra Valkyria will be defending her NXT Women's Championship against Roxanne Perez. All signs point to Perez regaining her title. I think a lot of people are convinced she has her groove back with this new personality she has, her heel turn. I'll have to, there's so many moving parts, so many other people hanging around this angle. Look, we'll see, but I mean, Perez is not she's lost so much. Maybe there'll be a reignition at Stand and Deliver, and her match against Valkyria will be like, whoa, kind of thing. Oba Femi will be defending the North American Championship against Dijak and Josh Briggs. This could actually be a lot of fun. I like Dijak a lot, and he's been over-delivering recently. Josh Briggs can be a fun time too. And Obafemi, still green, but hell of a presence, and he's got the naturals. He's pretty good. He's not... He stands out from the pack of their NIL people because he has naturals. He gets it. And apparently management is very thrilled with how he's been executing his things in NXT. So we'll see how it goes with Oba Femi. I think there's a good chance he could retain here because they really like him. Management really likes him. But I could see Dijak winning here too. Look, I think that this has the potential to be a fun match. Even though it's a three-way for a title, I think all these guys are going to bring their working boots, and that honestly, sometimes that's all I need. And then Trick Williams versus Carmelo Hayes, which a lot of NXT fans are calling that's like the main event. It's the people's main event. It's the one people want to see. This has been building for a while, where Carmelo Hayes event turned on Trick Williams, and now Trick Williams is this huge baby face. Show me what you got kind of thing, I like Carmelo Hayes enough, I know a lot of people seem to think he's a plug-and-play star. I don't think he is. I think he's a good upper-level mid-card guy, but I don't see star on him as well at all. Trick Williams, maybe a little more, and he's been using that star power to get himself over. He's got the chant, he's got the theme song, he's got the look. I still think he's a little green. We'll see what kind of match they can pull out here. But these are two guys I like. There's the whole story, the bad blood, and whatnot. It's all fine. Just give me a good match, right? That's what we want. Good matches. Fine little card, but not even fine little card. I don't know. I can't even say fine little card. I'm like, there's nothing here that I like. Even Trick Williams and Carmelo Hayes, I'm like, okay, yeah, sure. But there's nothing here that excites me. Nothing that makes me want to jump up and down. And Ilya Dragunov versus Tony D'Angelo. My God. How did anyone decide that this was a good idea? That this was, Lyra Valkyria, good little wrestler, but her championship reign's been a bust. No one's going to remember it. We're also getting the Ring of Honor Supercard of Honor this weekend. That's happening on the Friday, though. It is technically part of the WrestleMania weekend festivities, but also not. But it's happening in Pennsylvania, in Philadelphia, at the Lyra Center. Interesting little thing here. A card where, look, I don't watch Ring of Honor, so I don't keep up with the weekly. But I look at this and, not unlike NXT, I look at this and I'm like, man, there's nothing that's lighting the fuse for me. But Ring of Honor pay-per-views usually have a tendency to over-deliver. They're rarely bad. They haven't been bad since TK took over, and they've actually been either very good to excellent. So at least I'm like, well, again, people are probably going to put their working boots on, and we'll see what happens. But I'm having a hard time getting excited for it. Billy Starks versus Queen Aminata will be the tournament final for the inaugural Women's World Television Championship. I think this should be pretty good. I think if Billie gives a performance close to the one she delivered at the previous Ring of Honor show, I think it's going to be great. Queen Aminata, I think, is a solid worker. This should be a lot of fun. Billie's probably going to win. Kyle Fletcher will be defending the Ring of Honor World Television Championship against Lee Johnson. See, like this, probably things have been well established on Ring of Honor TV, but I'm like, okay. But, Kyle Fletcher rules. Been a while since I've seen big shoddy Lee Johnson. Let's see what, Lee's probably very hungry too. So let's see what happens. Let them feast, as they say. Mesa Era and Empress Nexus Venus, which is the duo of Mina Sharakawa and Maika, will be taking on Tam Nakano and Queen's Quest, the duo of Saya Kamitani and Izumi, in a Stardom 6-woman tag match showcase. Well, what do you know? Now, when I say I have trouble getting excited for this, for this card, I'm not excited to see Stardom. But it's just like I can also watch Stardom. That's just my thing. But don't get me wrong, it's really cool that there's Stardom women showing up on Ring of Honor, and it's going to be a nice little exhibition match for them. I guess I'm assuming Ian's going to be on the call, so hopefully most assuredly he'll have more than enough notes to drive people through it, to guide people through the match, make them understand who's who and what's what. This is going to be a blast. It's going to be a lot of fun. It's not that I don't like the idea of it. It's like I have trouble getting excited about it because it's a Stardom 6-way, and I kind of see those every time I watch Stardom. So it's all wrestlers I like. I really like Maika. She kicks ass. Tam Nakano is a big deal. Yeah, it should be a good time. Athena will be defending the Ring of Honor Women's World Championship against Hikaru Shida. Should be a good match again. Sometimes, I know not a lot of people like to hear this, but sometimes Shida is a little sloppy. Not in the good sloppy, like in the real sloppy, where it's like, Athena's solid as hell. I think the day Athena loses the Ring of Honor Women's World Championship is the day she goes back to AEW full time. I don't think that time is now. Not just yet. So I think she retains. John Morrison, Johnny TV, will be taking on Dalton Castle in a fight without honor. They actually won the boys off of Brendan and Brent, off of Dalton. And they're fired now, so that's no longer in play. I don't know. I am absolutely in the camp of I have never asked for more John Morrison on my television. So is the feud with Dalton Castle good? I like Dalton Castle. I think he's fun. I think he's an extreme breath of fresh air. We'll see. But I don't know. Could be fun. But these are two guys who are banged up. I don't know. How much are they going to do in this fight without honor? I don't know. Again, trouble getting excited. I have trouble getting excited for the main event. Eddie Kingston defending the Ring of Honor World Championship against Mark Briscoe. And I feel I should be more excited for it. Mark's going to win, right? Because then that's one thing that should get me excited. I should be excited for Mark winning the title. It's going to be good. He should have a singles title. He should have his championship run in Ring of Honor right now. It's good for Mark Briscoe. It'll be good for the fans. Should be a fun match, don't get me wrong, but I don't know here. It'll probably be a very good match. I'm just not excited for it. Nothing that I'm chomping at the bit for. And Eddie's going to lose another title. I talked about this a couple of weeks ago on one of my little wrap-up videos that I've been doing on youtube.com/MrWarrenHayes. Eddie being in the position of the underdog, of the chase, being the chaser as opposed to the champion, it's much more Eddie Kingston. I think this is okay. I'm ready for Eddie to question himself again, to be bitter if need be. Like I'm ready for this next chapter of Eddie Kingston now that he got his tremendous 2023 where he met his heroes. He fought in Korakuen Hall. He won a championship in New Japan. He won the C2 and became a Triple Crown champion like his heroes. Now it all falls apart. Yeah, but that's the story of Eddie Kingston as a character, of course. That's the story. That's what we like. And then we side with Eddie, the everyman, when it's time for him to prove himself again. We'll be right back on his side. I think Mark Briscoe retains. Anyway, again, I'm not excited, but I feel it should be a pretty good show. I think it's gonna deliver, but I'm just not into it. To me, this is the coldest Ring of Honor has felt since TK took over. We always had we had the Briscoes and FTR for a while, and then I even think Claudio's title reign was hotter, and then Athena would have these consistently great matches, and people would buzz about it. Now there's no buzz. There's no buzz. Anyway, we're gonna wrap this up with one more preview of another show. One last preview. I swear, I was ready to just do previews and then go have a nap, but the wrestling world doesn't work that way. The news wouldn't let me go. Outside of all the WrestleMania related stuff happening this weekend, New Japan is holding a show on April 6th. Sakura Genesis on April 4th from the Ryogoku Kokugigan, hard to say. Let's call it Sumo Hall. In Tokyo, Japan. Headlined, of course, by Tetsuya Naito versus Yota Tsuji. Yota Tsuji, who, of course, won the New Japan Cup. Dismal, bland, ordinary New Japan Cup. But thankfully, Yota Tsuji is part of its brighter moments. I thought, look, I know a lot of people want the Musketeers to, they want the Musketeers to win, right? Do something with the Musketeers, but I don't think it's time yet. I don't think we're doing it just yet. I don't think it's time. For Yoda, anyway. Especially when Windy City Riot is coming up imminently. And Tetsuya Naito is coming, at least is advertised as champion right up until the date. And yeah, I don't know if he drops the title here, because a lot of people, myself included, and we'll do the full preview on an upcoming show, but there's I believe Jon Moxley has a substantial chance at winning the IWGP title off of Naito, at least right up until Dominion, and hold it up right up until Dominion. I think it's possible. You know, Moxley recently has his residency, his Japanese green card, essentially. He can go there as many times as he likes, and he loves New Japan. He really loves going there. I wouldn't be shocked in the slightest if this happened. Look, he's going to be on this card. He's going to be with his boy Shota, his other son. And they're gonna set up Naito. Moxley wouldn't be. Look, he flew over there, and he's gonna do the match with Shota, and they're gonna do a stare down with. He's gonna do a stare down with Naito at the end. That's inevitable at this point, right? To set up the match, it's unfortunate. I think the finish is telegraphed a little bit when you start, looking at the card structure and whatnot, but I think this is how it's going to go. Naito retains, and there's a fair chance Jon Moxley is going to take it off of him. We've got Double or Nothing coming up, but what else do we have coming up before Dominion? We have Forbidden Door. Or is Dominion before? I mean, look, Forbidden Door hasn't. When is New Japan Dominion 2024? Let's take a look here. Yeah, okay. June 9. So it will absolutely be before Forbidden Door. So that line of thinking that I was setting up in my head doesn't work anymore. But look, there's if you want to keep this in the New Japan bubble for a while, the Naito and Tsuji stuff. Tsuji out the gate, when he joined, when he came back from excursion, right? He sort of got into LIJ, right? Do you remember, he'd lead the fist bumps and everyone was sort of looking around. You'd have Hiromu looking over at Naito to see what Naito was going to do, and he followed suit. And no one was quite sure about Tsuji and what is this guy up to. And they even left him behind after his loss, where he was like, "Oh, okay, you walk to the back." They were like, "You're a little too big for your britches here." And Tsuji straight up told Naito, "I'm not." In regards to the title, I'm not going to stab you in the back. I'm going to stab you in the front. I'm coming for your title. And that's okay. That's how LIJ works. And it's pretty much always worked like that. So it's fine. I'm not like, oh no, the future of LIJ. No. None of that. But you're looking at Naito. You look at Naito's reign and, how far. The question is how far can he go? Because Naito is another guy, older, broken down. Sure, he can pull up when the big matches arrive, but how much more does he have it in him? How much more of this can he still do? We don't know that. We don't know how much he can still go, essentially. So is it a shorter reign for him than a longer one? Maybe, but I really don't think that it ends at Tsuji. I think it's a little too soon for Tsuji. A little too soon. I know a lot of people don't. A lot of people disagree with me. A lot of people want Okada defeating Tanahashi all over again. That's what they want. But what worked once doesn't necessarily work again for another guy, right? It worked well for one guy. Doesn't mean it'll work well here. And right now, I think putting the main title on a new guy, would be a little detrimental because the roster is kind of slim pickings right now. It's not great. Anyway. Then we mentioned it quickly. Jon Moxley and Shota Umino will be taking on Ren Narita and Jack Perry. Former AEW guy, Jack Perry. Fighting an AEW guy. It should be fun. I honestly, I am not one of these guys who's down on Jack Perry. I don't know. Maybe I'm a hopeless romantic. I hope it works out for him. I hope this excursion is good for him. And look, he's coming back to Windy City Riot in a couple of weeks, right? To work that show too. In Chicago. Maybe all that Jack Perry talk from CM Punk on Ariel Helwani's thing. Maybe that was Punk throwing him a favor. Here, kid, let me throw you a bone. Anyway, that actually should be a fun tag team match. I'm looking forward to that. Show versus Yo for the IWGP Junior Heavyweight title match. I feel like I've seen this match tons of times. I couldn't care less. And there's going to be House of Torture nonsense involved in this. There's going to be House of Torture. IWGP Tag Team Championship will also be on the line, where the Bullet Club champions of Chase Owens and Kenta will be taking on Bishamon. It's like everything circles back to Bishamon. Who cares? Chase Owens and Kenta. Come on. The IWGP Junior Heavyweight Tag Team titles will be on the line. Clark Connors and Drilla Maloney, the champions, taking on Catch-22 and the Intergalactic Jet Setters. So a triple threat. A three-way match. Teams I really like. People I really like. I thought Kevin Knight had been released from New Japan. I'm confused. I mean, I'm glad to see him there. Don't get me wrong. Maybe he's just on talent exchange with Impact. Big rumor that Clark Connor's contract is up. So I think if he loses here, that might be a sign. If they lose here, might be a sign. To me, you put the title back on Catch-22. Those guys are tremendous. And they really made the junior heavyweight titles interesting during the reign, like now about over a year ago, 18 months ago. They really made them interesting. So they should put it back on them again. And then, you get the undercard stuff. United Empire, 6-man trio, I should say. United Empire trio of Callum Newman, Great O'Connor, and Jeff Cobb will be taking on Dookie, Sonata, and Yuya Uemura of just 5 guys. Got tag team of Bushi and Hiromu Takahashi taking on David Finlay and Gedo. El Desperado and Taguchi will be taking on the TMDK duo of Kosei Fujita and Zack Sabre Jr. And we're getting a Frontier Zone 6-man tag to start things off. Ayato Yoshida, Chicharito Shoki, butchered that, and Takuro Niki will be taking on the Chaos trio of Tomohiro Ishii, duo, I should say, of Tomohiro Ishii and Toru Yano, and Oleg Boltin. That actually sounds a lot more fun than a lot of stuff on this show. Ayato Yoshida is a lot of fun. You got Boltin, Oleg Boltin in there, Ishii in there. It's going to be a blast. So Sakura Genesis has that big old mid smell. There's really 2 matches on this card. Well, 3 if you want to count the Frontier, but it's there's 2 matches on this card that really have my attention, that I'm excited for. I'm looking forward to watch. But, you know, the Moxley Umino versus House of Torture show match is going to have House of Torture nonsense all throughout. So at the same time, like, I'm excited for the match, but then I'm like, there's going to be so much bullshit. So I don't know. It's not a great card either, folks. We're back. We're still, you know, that's been the long and short of stuff, right? So anyway, I'm gonna watch it. I think, you know, next week, I'll probably come back next week. It's gonna be a bunch of reviews. There's gonna be more previews. I might just be back into the swing of things here. Or I might still be rethinking on how I handle all of this. Who knows? Listen. Hi. We're going to wrap it up for today. This was fun. This felt good. I enjoyed it. I hope you all did too. Covering a bit of happenings right now in the world of wrestling, and then all the previews and my thoughts and my ramblings. Hope you enjoyed it. We went over 3 hours. Warren Hayes is back. What can I tell you? One more time, if you're watching this on youtube.com/MrWarrenHayes right now, do consider leaving a like if it's your first time here. Subscribe to the channel. There's a lot more stuff where that comes from. And make sure that you leave a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts or a 5-star rating on Spotify if you're listening to this on your favorite podcast application. I guess I'll be back on Thursday for the AEW Dynamite review. Those have been running and rolling and feeling good as well. So be sure to be there. Otherwise, listen, thank you all for joining me again today, and I'll see you next time.